At 2:47 p.m., a seemingly inexplicable tactical maneuver unfolded over the skies of the Olski sector, a front that had long settled into a low-intensity rhythm of sporadic artillery duels and unmanned aerial vehicle reconnaissance. A Ukrainian Mi-24 Hind attack helicopter, a high-value aviation asset, initiated a flight path that defied conventional combat doctrine. It descended to a low altitude and flew directly into the known engagement envelope of Russian air defense systems. Its slow and deliberate approach is an open invitation for attack. From the perspective of a concealed Russian man-portable air defense system, MANPAD's team, the sight was almost too good to be true. The Mi-24, heavily laden with ordnance, presented itself as an almost perfect target against the clear afternoon sky. The tactical absurdity of the situation should have served as a warning. The Olski area held little immediate strategic value. Troop concentrations were minimal, and there was no critical infrastructure warranting such a high-risk air assault. Yet, the temptation of an easy kill on a formidable gunship appeared to override any deeper tactical assessment. The helicopter's armament was conspicuous. It carried 4 B-8V rocket pods, with each pod containing 20 S-8QAM 80mm unguided rockets, for a total payload of 80 projectiles. Each S-8 rocket weighs approximately 11.7 kilograms and is tipped with a 1.1 kilogram high-explosive anti-tank HEAT warhead capable of penetrating up to 400 millimeters of rolled homogeneous armor. Deploying such a massive area effect weapon system in a quiet sector was a profound tactical anomaly. For the Russian observers, it was an act of inexplicable recklessness. For the Ukrainian command, it was the carefully set bait in an intricate trap. Positioned in a derelict building approximately 3.2 kilometers away, a 2-man Russian crew had been tracking the helicopter's approach for the preceding 4 minutes. They operated a 9K-38 Igla, a highly capable Soviet-era surface-to-air missile system. The complete system, ready to fire, weighs 17.9 kilograms and launches a 1.5-meter-long missile. The missile's 1.17 kilogram warhead, containing 390 grams of potent high explosive, was more than sufficient to neutralize an aircraft of the Mi-24's class. The true lethality of the weapon, however, resided in its sophisticated guidance system. The 9M39 missile is equipped with a cryogenically cooled infrared seeker head. Using nitrogen as a coolant, the system significantly reduces thermal sensor noise, thereby increasing its detection range and its ability to discriminate between the target's engine exhaust and decoy countermeasures like flares. As the Russian team finalized their preparations, the Ukrainian pilot initiated the attack run. The Mi-24 rolled into a shallow dive and unleashed its entire complement of 80 rockets in a single, devastating ripple-fire sequence. The projectiles screamed towards the ground at a velocity of 610 meters per second, saturating a 500-meter-wide impact zone. The attack itself appeared chaotic and ineffective. A significant number of rockets plunged harmlessly into the waters of the Dnipro River, while others detonated in empty fields, throwing up geysers of mud and debris. Only a small fraction struck any structures of note. This seemingly wasteful expenditure of munitions was, in fact, a masterfully executed deception. The wide impact pattern served a critical dual purpose. Firstly, it provided a degree of area suppression, forcing any potential ground threats to take cover. More importantly, it created a complex thermal landscape on the ground, a crucial element for the next phase of the operation. The sheer spectacle of the attack was designed to compel any nearby air defense unit to engage what appeared to be an amateurishly flown, vulnerable target. The Russian MANPAD's team acted precisely as their doctrine dictated. Soviet-era military procedure mandated the immediate engagement of any enemy aircraft operating within the Igla's 5.2-kilometer maximum effective range. The Ukrainian helicopter, flying low and slow, was well inside these parameters. Critically, the gunner's northeastern firing angle confirmed that the Mi-24 had deliberately crossed the Dnipro River into Russian-controlled airspace, an extraordinary risk taken specifically to ensure it was within range of this exact type of air defense system. At 2:48 p.m., just as the final S-8 rockets impacted below, the Russian operator squeezed the trigger. With a brilliant white flash, the Igla missile's solid-fuel rocket motor ignited, propelling it from its launch tube. The missile accelerated rapidly to approximately Mach 1.9. Its cooled infrared seeker firmly locked onto the powerful heat signature of the Mi-24's twin Isotov TV 3117 turboshaft engines. Inside the Ukrainian cockpit, the pilot's SPO-15 Beryoza radar warning receiver, RWR, instantly screamed an alert. The pilot's reaction was immediate but calm, indicating the launch was not only anticipated, but expected. The SPO-15 system, operating across a wide frequency spectrum from 0.6 to 17 GHz, utilizes 4 antennas to provide 360-degree coverage, detecting hostile electromagnetic emissions. Its internal library can identify over 600 distinct threat signatures, prioritizing them for the pilot on a 16 LED display that shows bearing and threat level. The system's audio cues are distinct. A steady 800 Hz tone signifies a radar lock, while a high-pitched, pulsing 1600 Hz tone confirms a missile launch. The latter was now blaring in the pilot's helmet. Exactly as planned, the pilot executed a hard bank to the left while simultaneously activating his countermeasures. The aircraft's UV-26 dispenser system, mounted on the fuselage, ejected a precisely timed sequence of 12 PI-26 infrared decoy flares. Each flare burns at over 2,000 degrees Celsius, creating an intense thermal signature designed to seduce heat-seeking missiles away from the helicopter's engines. In that single moment, the battlefield was transformed into a thermal nightmare for the Igla's seeker head. The 80 exploding rockets on the ground had created a sprawling wall of persistent heat sources from burning vegetation and debris. Above, the 12 freshly deployed flares bloomed like miniature suns. The 1980s-era seeker logic, designed to track a single, primary heat source against a relatively cool background, was completely overwhelmed by this three-dimensional maze of thermal decoys. Unable to differentiate between the helicopter and the dozens of brighter, more appealing signatures, the missile lost its lock on the Mi-24. Its guidance system reacquired what it determined to be the most intense heat source, a cluster of burning rocket impacts on the ground, and veered sharply, streaking harmlessly past the helicopter. The missile miss was not the objective. It was merely a prerequisite. The true victory was achieved the instant the Russian operator fired. The missile's launch created a brilliant, unmistakable infrared plume, a beacon that was instantly detected by multiple Ukrainian sensor platforms. Ukrainian Signals Intelligence, SIGINT, assets immediately triangulated the launch point, correlating the thermal signature with electromagnetic emissions from the team's communications gear. This entire process, from launch detection to the transmission of precise target coordinates, was completed in under 90 seconds. This represents a revolutionary compression of the intelligence-to-execution cycle, which in previous conflicts could take anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes. This speed is a product of integrated sensor networks and a highly streamlined, decentralized command structure. The targeting data was immediately relayed to a pre-positioned FPV, first-person view drone operator, located 8 kilometers away. This operation exemplifies a fundamental evolution in Ukrainian helicopter tactics, a doctrine born of necessity known as acceptance of risk. Instead of employing traditional methods like terrain masking and standoff attacks to avoid air defenses, pilots now deliberately use their aircraft as bait. They trust in the efficacy of their advanced countermeasures to survive the initial engagement, with the ultimate goal of exposing and eliminating the enemy's air defense network. Meanwhile, the Russian team, oblivious to their imminent fate, began their standard post-engagement procedure. Shoot and scoot doctrine calls for immediate relocation to avoid counter-battery fire. In the Cold War era, this was a viable tactic, as enemy response times were measured in minutes or hours. Against a modern, networked adversary, this window has shrunk to mere seconds. At 2:49 p.m., the Ukrainian FPV drone operator received final target confirmation: a modified commercial quadcopter, its civilian origins belying its lethal purpose, lifted into the air. In place of a camera gimbal, it carried a 1.5 kilogram high-explosive warhead. The operator set a course for the Russian position, maintaining an altitude of just 50 meters to fly below radar coverage and avoid visual detection. The Russian team's pack-up process was proving to be perilously slow. The 9K-38 Igla system, while portable, requires several minutes to properly disassemble and stow. The launch tube must be disconnected, the expended battery coolant unit disposed of, and the thermal battery removed. The muddy terrain of the Dnipro River Delta turned this routine task into a logistical nightmare, further extending their window of vulnerability. During this period of task fixation, their situational awareness was completely compromised. At 2:54 p.m., 6 minutes after the Igla launch, the Ukrainian drone arrived in the target area. The operator's FPV feed provided a clear view of the two Russian soldiers still struggling to pack their equipment near the building. The drone's design offered a near-perfect stealth approach. Its small, plastic body had a minimal radar cross-section, and its electric motors produced almost no heat signature. Acoustically, the high-pitched whine of its rotors is only audible within 100 to 200 meters. By the time a target hears an electric drone, it is already too late. At 2:55 p.m., the sound finally registered. The distinctive buzz of an FPV drone is a sound seared into the memory of every soldier on the front line. Recognition was instant, but escape was impossible. Trapped in the open by heavy equipment and thick mud, they could only look up as the drone commenced its terminal dive. The operator made final adjustments, ensuring the warhead would impact directly between the two soldiers and their valuable missile system. At precisely 2:56 p.m., exactly 8 minutes after they had launched their missile at the Ukrainian helicopter, the FPV drone struck. The 1.5 kilogram warhead detonated on impact, neutralizing the team and their weapon. The strategic effect was immediate and profound. Within hours, analysis of Russian communications traffic revealed widespread discussion of the incident. New orders were disseminated to air defense units across the sector. Do not engage aerial targets without explicit authorization. This calculated operation had not only eliminated one MANPADS team, but had also instilled a paralyzing hesitation throughout the entire Russian air defense network, granting Ukrainian helicopters significantly greater freedom of action in the skies over Olski.